Nirvana became the biggest band in the world overnight, right? What if I told you that the truth is way more complicated and honestly, a lot more interesting? Hang with me, and I bet you'll be surprised because sometimes the truth is a lot more interesting than the myth. I really appreciate your support. If you take just a moment, like and subscribe, it'd make my day. Let's dive in. Before Nevermind topped the charts, before Smells Like Teen Spirit took over MTV and the radio airwaves, Nirvana had already been grinding away in the music scene for years. Small clubs, long drives, and busted-up vans, barely sleeping or even eating at times. And almost nobody was really paying attention. But that would all change in what felt like a heartbeat. As you watch this, I encourage you to think about how you personally would have handled a sudden explosion of fame, and all that comes with it. As we learn about their chaotic rise and fall, consider what it would do to you if your entire life had suddenly been put under a microscope that the entire world was looking through. Let's dive in. Nirvana didn't appear out of thin air. They formed back in 1987. By 1989, they had already released their first album, Bleach. It wasn't a blockbuster. It wasn't even close. It was raw, heavy, rough around the edges, and it showed a ton of potential. But it wasn't the kind of sound that would change the music world. The band played tiny shows in rundown venues and loaded their own gear. They were in the musical trenches long before they became legendary. When Nirvana signed with Geffen Records and started recording Nevermind, nobody predicted the tidal wave that would come. It wasn't expected to sell more than a few 100,000 copies at best. Behind the scenes, something was brewing. College radio was spreading early singles. Word of the grunge scene was exploding. Before long, MTV began taking interest in the band. Yet, Chris, Dave, and Kurt weren't watching the charts or the TV. They were rehearsing, writing, and touring. Just trying to keep up, as they had been for years. But what was happening couldn't be ignored for long. The gears were already turning. They would only pick up speed. Slowing down wasn't an option. When Nevermind started blowing up in the US, Nirvana wasn't even there. They were touring in Europe, playing medium-sized venues to rapidly growing crowds. But when the shows were over, they were still riding in vans and often sleeping on floors. We're about to see how that was all going to change right before their eyes. History was being written in real time. Suddenly, people back home kept calling and saying, "You're all over MTV. We're selling out stores. They can't even keep your records in stock. You're the biggest band in America." The band literally didn't believe it. With no internet and no social media or instant analytics, news traveled slowly, and it felt surreal. The band wasn't ready for what was to come, but they couldn't stop it, even if they wanted to. Their lives were forever changed, and not all for the better. This is where things begin to take a tragic turn that would ultimately lead to Kurt's mysterious death. More on that in a minute. Huge success meant huge expectations. Every show was bigger than the last. Every interview and article mattered. The spotlight was like a magnifying glass. This sudden frenzy collided violently with Kurt's chaotic personal life. The focus quickly turned to his highly public relationship with Courtney Love and the dangerous habit that they shared. Media attention intensified. There was nowhere to run, and there was nowhere to hide. Like many artists, under pressure, Kurt turned to self-medication to cope. Unfortunately, it only added fuel to the fire already burning inside of him. It wasn't dramatic at first, but as time went on, it became impossible to ignore and began to take over his life. Something most people don't know is that the problem got so out of hand that Courtney, the band, and even the record label staged an intervention to get Kurt to go to rehab. While the desire might have been to help, the intentions were not sincere, at least not to Kurt. The intervention was not about saving Kurt. It was about saving the money machine that the band had become, and Kurt saw right through it. He would eventually agree to go to rehab, only to escape within a few days. What happens over the next week is still shrouded in mystery to this day. When Nirvana exploded, the world saw the blast, but nobody could prepare for the fallout. They didn't see the years of tiny shows, the long drives, the slow build-up. For Nirvana, fame wasn't joy. It was confusion, frustration, and angst. The very same emotions Kurt had been fighting against since his parents' divorce. Only now, they magnified and left nowhere to hide. Fame didn't solve any of Kurt's personal problems. It only intensified them. Legend says they blew up overnight. The truth is that the fuse was burning slowly for years, and the explosion would quickly destroy the band and lead to Kurt's untimely death. Once crowned the voice of a generation, expectations, addiction, and inescapable nature of global fame inevitably crushed the band. Kurt never wanted to be a hero or even a spokesman. Success, media attention, pressure, and personal struggles proved to be more than he could handle. The seeds of their downfall were planted the moment success arrived. Not because of the fame itself, but because of how fast it reshaped their lives in ways they were unprepared to cope with. We'll dive even deeper into the many mysteries that still surround Kurt's life and death in future videos. Let me know in the comments what you would like to discuss next, and be sure to subscribe. It truly helps me stay motivated and continue decoding grunge lyrics. Thanks.